Hello, fellow administrators. Welcome to one more guide. This time, as requested by users of my channel and Discord, I'll be explaining the difference of dark sigils and helping you understand better why Plague is not suited for most dark units, but suited for some specific units, such as in Oneiroi's case. The first thing that most users look after when trying to explain why Plague is better than any other sigil is that specific part of dealing extra damage that ignores any defensive status. It's not wrong to use this as basis, but the problem is when this part limits the damage according a specific requirement, and this sigil is linked to the attack status of user. Elemental sigils are usually placed in builds to help increase the overall damage of the character, but specifically increasing the percentage of their elemental damage qualification and still working as a multiplier when put alongside the other status. It's not mandatory, since each build will change according the kit and main role of each character, or if you prefer, main purpose. Below, I'm using Hoder as example. She's one of the units that is expected to be built with Plague, but instead, I'm using the Moon Sigil, which will be released alongside Celine's patch. These are the current dark elemental sigils we have. Since some of you shared with me that you guys hate math then, I summarized a lot the explanation using the formula to only compare a expected damage. However, the proper amount of damage will differ, since, again, this is incomplete. Anyway, Plague effect, in my point of view, for most units, is really useless, because despite it giving benefit of the extra damage dealt being linked to each hit of the skill, instead of each cast, it's once more limited towards the attack status of the user. Hades is another example. She's a modifier who usually would have a huge benefit from Plague effect because of the combination between her kit, her Sig key, and as well the dance duo ability. However, she'll deal a lower amount of damage than she's able to deal when built with either Eljudner or Moon. Even if I include S-Hera in the process, Ukuninushi, Brahma, Lingguang, or different methods to increase her attack, this would only increase even further the damage of the other sigils. So, in an overall summary, for new servers, until the release of Moon, Eljudner is the best dark sigil. Now that we've finished understanding the difference on dark sigils, and after all my words to expose how Plague is bad, or even in both my guides for Hades and Oneiroi, showing how S-Hera is not required anymore, there's still that small catch thing, as mentioned by one of my favorite characters, John Constantine. Oneiroi, as many of you know and saw, is not a common unit. It's not only because of how good she is, or the whole situation of her crit rate, but instead, it's because of this kind of thing she can manage to do, even if you literally do nothing besides pressing the rotation of Ultimate, Skill 3, and Ultimate again. You can just see that I'm literally doing nothing besides joking in the stage, and even still, let's take a closer look. As you guys can see, this doesn't seem to make any sense. But, in fact, let's analyze how it works. This amount of damage is coming from the mechanic of the additional damage dealt equal to the specific percentage of her attack under the roused activation. When you take a deep thought on it, you can just check that basically, roused is an attack with an increasing effect, and that if you include her Sig key, it'll be possible to make this happen. Hagani in this battle is buffed. I'm battling against him at iteration check level 8 with max amount of resistance against other elements, except ice. Even if he has this amount of resistance, even if I just ignore the existence of skill 3 or try to mess up the rotation of Oneiroi, the amount of damage being dealt almost seems as if I'm using an ice unit against him. However, there's still more. Besides ultimate, when Oneiroi uses her yellow code, specifically line 2, it allows other units to make Oneiroi trigger the roused damage through the activation of dodge effect. This dodge effect is not linked towards any type of effect, it just requires the effect from dodge being triggered, making S-Hera one of the most suited units to be used in this setup for Oneiroi, and making this whole strategy being suited to be combined with Plague because of the extra damage effect. However, using the words of the immortal Uncle Chan, one more thing. Since roused is inside the area of ultimate, this technically means that it'll have relation to the amount of damage dealt by ultimate, making then suited to take advantage of two other units. Bastet, who can just reset her dodge effect when using red code, and Tier Light, who can give a high amount of ultimate damage buff that surpass any other sources, even his counterpart, Tier Fire. Since Iteration Check 8 has a limit of units, and I already reached the limit, I'm using Past Grudges as example. The first run is with Bastet. My second run is with Tier Light, however. Despite his buff being big, there's some problems when specifically using him. You need to build him focusing on ultimate charge to bring the buff as fast you can, which means that depending the type of build, he probably won't deal that much damage. Also, my Tier Light is built for damage, and he's almost Omega, forcing me to remove some of his Sigils. Differently from S. Hera, he doesn't provide multiple sources of damage buff for S. Oneiroi, and differently from Bastet, he's not a dark unit, and differently from both, his dodge is not that good. Even still, despite taking some time, I got some good damage numbers. Also, yes, when I say good, is me trying to be gentle, since obviously there's a clear difference of damage. I tried to avoid dealing damage with S. Oneiroi to let the screen clear to show the damage numbers, and also demonstrate how she needs at least one dark unit with her. Consider this: S. Oneiroi, Hades, and S. Hera as your main focus, and any other units are fillers. That's all for now, dear administrators. I hope to see you in the next guide. Until next time.